All right, I'm just going to make you aware that council meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. And with that, I'd like to welcome you to another beautiful Huron County winter day and call the meeting to order. So first off, I'd be looking for approval of the agenda. That's Councillor Basnet, Councillor Dietrich seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any pecuniary interest that anyone needs to declare this morning? Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Warden. Item 11.2, the recycling producer responsibility, and the conflict is the potential to impact my spouse's business.
Okay, thank you for declaring that. We're going to move on in the agenda to the minutes of previous meeting. If there's any errors or omissions to address, and if not, I'd be looking for someone to adopt the minutes. That is Councillor Becker and Councillor Vanstone seconding that to adopt the minutes. Those in favor? That is carried. Under delegations, we have Huron Perth Public Health budget package being presented to us by Julie Pauly, and she's going to be joining us virtually. Welcome, Julie, and whenever you're ready, you go ahead.
Super, great, thanks. And I will be sharing my screen, so please let me know if you are unable to see what I've put up on the screen. So Ed, can everyone see that okay, I hope? It should be part of your package, so there's nothing new here. But so thank you very much for allowing Dr. Clausen and myself here to present the 2026 budget for the health unit. Before I dive into the numbers a little bit, I thought it might be helpful to give a little bit of a background of how we got to the 2026 budget. So in 2023, in an unprecedented move, the ministry provided public health with a 3-year future budget notification. So health units were to receive a 1% increase to base programs for 2023, 2024, and 25, and 25 and 26. So the ministry also informed us that they would be undertaking a funding review for public health with the initial implementation plan for 2026. We have been recently informed, though, that the full implementation will not likely take place until 2027, 2028. So we will keep you aware of any pertinent updates that come out of that if we hear any details before 2027. We've recently received draft Ontario Public Health Standards, which is the document that establishes the minimum requirements for public health programs and services across Ontario. They guide local health units such as Huron and Perth in providing foundational services such as our population health assessments, disease investigations, injury prevention, health promotion, emergency management, and many others, while promoting accountability and health equity for the population of Huron and Perth. These standards drive the budget so that HPPH can allocate staffing appropriately to best fulfill the requirements of the standards. Some other details that factored into the 2026 budget include the fact that staffing has been removed from the budget for the 3rd year in a row in order to balance the budget. In 2024, 13.5 FT were removed from the organizational structure. In 2025, 7.6 and it was removed and gapped. And in 2026, in order to balance this budget, we had to remove 3.9 FTE from the annual budget. So you have some more details. These layoffs included many departments. They included all of the unions, the 3 different unions that we have, Opsiona and QP. It impacted non-union as well as management staff. So for the 2026 budget, HPPH is asking for a 1% increase to the municipalities to match the province's 1% enhancement to cost-shared programs. This takes the municipal ask to $3,224,460 for all of the obligated municipalities. As you note, though, that the budget here does not include any capital projects, as they are currently 100% funded by the ministry, so we do not ask the municipalities to contribute to those. For example, in 2026, we're currently undertaking window replacements and partial roof replacements at the Clinton site. So this is a quick overview of the revenue. You can see here it's 3.224460. We are planning for 1% 27-28, but those details will follow when we get more information about the funding evaluation done by the province. And so we are planning with our expenses to have a balanced budget in 2026 with the 1% ask from the municipalities. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you'd like further clarification or any enhancements to any of the details that I've shared, please let me know.
Thank you, Julie, and I'm going to turn it over to council if there's any questions you would have. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't have any questions. I just want to share a comment with the rest of the council. Although 3 years in a row we've had to cut staff, we're pretty comfortable with the adjustments that have been made. You never want to do it, but it was management at HPPH that came up with the list and really tried to figure out where we could make some savings. So it wasn't the board that just sat down and said, hey, we're just going to stop doing this. And in fact, I do believe in this year's budget, one of the positions that we had cut back last year, we added a little bit more time back into it just because we realized maybe we'd gone a little far. But I have to praise the staff there to keep the budget in line so that there isn't increases to the municipality. They are doing everything they can to still provide the service and keep the budget in track. Thank you.
Thank you for that background. Last chance, any other questions that you would like to ask? Seeing none, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive the presentation for our information. And that's Councillor Anderson and Councillor Heffer. Those in favor. And that is carried. So thank you, Julie and Dr. Clausen, for joining us this morning. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Councillor comments. Is there anything anybody wishes to speak to at this? Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. Some clarification for me. Was my understanding in previous budgets that we had dollars allocated for the unfortunate ones who are out in the cold, especially for winter months. Is there anything in this past budget, not the one going forward, but the one we're in now, that does allocate any funds for places or placements for those that are out in the cold?
Barbara, could you address that, please?
Yes, thank you. And through you, Warden, we shifted away from an out of the cold emergency program to our transitional housing program and our bridge housing program. It's offered significant benefits to working directly with clients and offering services to help them through the housing continuum. That being said, we do have some money set aside within our homelessness prevention dollars for emergency motel supports. Finding the motels to work with, though, has been a challenge.
Okay.
Follow up.
Yeah, because I've had some people tell me that there's been a number of an increase in people going into places that are open 24 hours, and they've had to deal with this issue. And I made a comment about it, and they looked at me and said, "Well, you're on county. You guys cut the funding, so we're dealing with the issue." And I went, noted, and asked the question. I did say back though to them. No surprise, but it was a different comment that I thought I would be able to say. I did say, well, maybe there's some number or something that you can call. And so I will pass on that information that there is still a little bit of a funding and there is some emergency number that they could call. Thank you.
Any other comments from councillors? All right, seeing none, we'll continue on in our budget to the consent agenda. There's 7 items under the consent agenda. Is there anything specific that somebody would like to pull out and speak to? And if not, then I'd be looking for motion to receive the consent agenda. And that's Councillor Dietrich, past Warden Ginn. Those in favor, that is carried. Under social and property services, we have Cheryl Patience joining us virtually, and she is here to answer any questions if you would have any under the North Huron Child Care expansion for Blythe. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I certainly understand that we need the service, and I don't have any problem with the fact that we're helping out. I need to understand the funding envelope a little bit. In the past, established daycare services in the county have occasionally received funding to help when there was such things as construction, whether it's replacement of windows, this or that. And they were always funded through the province, through the county. Does this 300,000 that we're talking about here come out of that same funding envelope? And as we get more daycare spaces in Huron County, will the envelope that comes from the province, is it anticipated to increase, or will all the daycare services lose out a little bit because the envelope stays the same, but the money has to be spread out among more people? If we could get an answer to that one.
All right, thank you for the question. And Cheryl, are you able to respond to that?
Sure, thank you, and through you, Warden. So the way that funding is done currently has shifted. So in 2025, the ministry moved to a cost-based funding allocation. So the funding that you're speaking of would be based on number of spaces that are operational. We're looking to get away from sort of that grant funding, or the ministry is looking to get away from that, where you're provided a certain envelope of money for the number of operational spaces you have, and that should provide some availability to build some contingencies in for maintenance and repairs and that type of thing. We do hope to still have a bit of a reserve for emergencies that come up to be able to assist, but the way funding's done has shifted. This funding in particular is with the intent of creating additional spaces and growing. So it's a bit different than what we're speaking of there, but for the overall, the new form of funding is based on operational, it's based on number of spaces. So we do anticipate, or we will see, our funding envelope increase based on the number of operational licensed spaces within the county.
All right. Any other questions for Cheryl? Seeing none, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive the report and approve issuing the funds. That's Councillor Heffer, Councillor Klopp seconding that. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Public Works, and this is the speed sign review in ACW, and Imran is here to speak to the report, and Wyatt is joining us as well. So Imran, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you. So this report is in response to Council's request to review traffic speeds on County Road 25 approaching Highway 21 in ACW. And specifically, the request was related to the potential use of a speed display device. Staff reviewed the location and existing conditions, and just noting that the intersection itself is under MTO jurisdiction. Over time, several safety measures have already been implemented, including oversized stop and stop ahead signage maintained by the MTO, as well as a speed reduction implemented by the county last year. And we introduced a 70-kilometer zone basically approaching the intersection. The speed data that we collected for this round shows an average operating speed of 77 kilometers an hour, which is just slightly above the posted limit. So based on these findings, staff at this time are recommending that one of the new radar speed boards recently purchased by the county can be installed on a rotational basis. We will continue to monitor speeds at the location, and we'll share with the OPP as appropriate. And we can potentially look at a permanent fixture there, but to start off, we would recommend on a rotational basis, like many of our other signs. So any questions, we're happy to answer, and Wyatt here is here as well, who's taken part in the speed calculations and the analysis.
Thank you, Imran. Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you, through Warden. Great job, Imran, as usual. And just wondering, so this sign will actually record the speeds and be able to be given that to the OPP for enforcement?
Imran, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. The sign will display the speed and record the speeds as well. So if we share the speeds with the OPP as they request, if they need it.
And I think that's great. Now that's awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else from council? Past Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and to Imran through yourself and to Wyatt. Thank you very much for recognizing our consideration And we're very appreciative of this, and I'd be happy to move this report if you'd care, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. So that motion is made by Past Warden McNeil, seconded by Councillor Finch. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Imran and Wyatt. And staff report on the recycling responsibilities for producers. And that report is in our package. Imran is here for questions if you would have any questions on that. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I see like municipalities are not covered by this either. And I just wonder what's the county do as far as waste disposal
Imran.
for our buildings?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Sorry, for buildings in terms of like our public works yards, who collects the recycling?
Yes, correct. Like Huron View, Huron Lee, Courthouse here. What do we do for those recycling?
Yeah,
I believe Barb would probably be able to answer that. Sorry, Imran, to cut you off, but I think Barb could answer that for us.
Yes, certainly. Thank you. And through you, Warden, we have a joint contract for our buildings, including the homes and the housing units, and also one of the non-profits as well. So we have a contract, and we amalgamated all of the waste removal and recycling into that contract. I would probably say 8-9 years ago, just for efficiencies of service. So it was one company doing all of those properties.
Okay. Any other questions on this report? And if not, I'd be looking for motion to receive the report. And that's Councillor Noel, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Those in favor? That motion is carried as well. So thank you, Imran, and Barb for answering that. Under economic development, Tricia is here joining us this morning. So welcome, Tricia. And this is regarding the starter company, and she's available for questions if council has any questions on this report. And if there's no questions, you know the drill. We'll be receiving a report, and that's Past Warden McClellan, seconded by Past Warden McNeil. Those in favor? That is carried. Thanks for being available, Tricia. And Economic Development Strategic Plan, and Chris Watson is here for questions if council would have questions regarding this report. And if there is no questions, I'd be looking for a motion to receive the report. Councillor Becker, seconded by Councillor Heffer. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Chris, for being available. We're just coming to the fun part of the agenda, and that's budget. So I believe Michael is going to lead us off and walk us through the budget part of this morning's agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Warden. So thanks again for just giving me the chance to speak with yourselves today. We have a lot to go over today. So same process as before. We have our special budget day coming up. So if there's some items that you wish to discuss in more detail, I'll add it to the parking lot, and we'll discuss it on that day. So just at the conclusion of this meeting, we'll just run through what we have in the parking lot, which isn't much right now. And we'll just get some feedback from council, but we'll do that after the departmental presentations. So before we get into the the departments, I just wanted to touch on why staff are recommending operating cuts as opposed to capital. I know in the past, we've looked at our capital budgets in terms of finding those savings, meeting, the tough budgets, in the moment, just addressing or deferring capital to meet those needs. And I just want to touch on why that's not sustainable really in the long term, and just to put some context into what deferral might mean if we're looking at deferring some of our capital cuts. So I just wanted to touch on that because it's easy just to defer a capital project, but that's not really going to help us in the long term. So I just wanted to touch on that before I turn it over to the departments. So if we look, this is an asset management funding schedule. So it just highlights the key departments that we've got looped in with our financing strategy for our asset management plan. So there's a couple little departments which aren't included in this: library, BTS, some of the corporate, and also you won't see the fleet listed here as well. And this is on page 18 of our executive summary. So on page 18, you'll see this chart. But this just kind of ties into to that strategy that we've presented annually to County Council. And if you recall in that strategy, we have to raise our levy 2 to 2.5% per year in order to meet our future long-term capital needs. We've been in that long-term lull where we haven't had to replace our key infrastructure, but that is soon ending. So for 2025, in terms of county funds, this is strictly funds that we've raised through the levy for the county is $9.9 million. Of that, about $580,000 of that is debenture financing. So of our own money, we've got about $9.4 million to support current capital for the county. So that's all departments across the board. So $9.9 million. Less the debenture financing at $9.4 million. So that's all we have in today's budget, or in 2025 for capital. How we set up the for 2026, again, we've got a small increase that we're proposing. But you can see here that, yes, we're only raising $9.9 million, but we can see that we've got $26 million in proposed capital expenditures, $2 million in terms of some of our larger operating projects. They're still asset management related. They just don't meet the accounting definition. So there's another $2 million, plus we got our debenture financing. So this is our capital program for this year. So basically $28 million in terms of capital. Within that, I've adjusted, or I've leveraged OSIF and gas tax to assist, and some reserves to assist with managing the overall capital needs to have a reasonable increase in our levy year over year. So I've brought in funding $9.3 million from OSIF and gas tax just to give us a small increase overall within primarily our public works budget, to have a small phase in. It's not enough, but it's a small phase in to slowly increase our funding that we're raising for the capital program. So we can see, based on the budget that's presented, we're going from $9.9 million proposed county funds to $10.6 million. That's a $700,000 increase year over year, and it's probably half of what we need annually in terms of an increase. So if we're looking at just a straight deferral of capital, really that's going to come out of probably public works. So if we take, say, that $3.2 million that we're trying to find in operating dollars, what's going to happen is this $5.3 million that we've got in county funds, all of a sudden that becomes $1.9 million. And that's the only funds that we're going to have then starting for 2027 or 26 going forward. And then we're going to have to start raising that again in future years' budgets, because we know the capital program isn't going anywhere, can only be deferred for so long. So then we're just basically taking that $3.2 million of county funds and setting ourselves back for future pressures. So this $5.3 million, if we reduce by the $3 million, again, I'm going to round, that's $2 million that we're starting out with, that we're going to have to build back up to where we need to be in our capital program. So that's why just deferring capital at this point really isn't the ideal way. It can be done, and if that's council's prerogative, that's fine. But all it would be doing is setting us up for greater challenges 27, 28, 29, and what have you. And if you just flip to page 34 of our program, it's just a 3-year summary in terms of our capital program. So we can see that 26 isn't a bad year in terms of new projects or total capital. But in 2027 and 28, this is where we start to see some pressure. So for this year, net capital expenditures, 10.7 million. These would be the funds that we're raising within our budget. This includes all departments. For 2027, we're starting to see some additional pressure because I don't have as much carry forward within our OSIF and gas tax. And we just are seeing some increased projects that are being required. So we're going from 10 million in terms of county funds required to support our capital to 14.8. And then to this number is going to be adjusted by 2.9 million, but just based on discussion with Imran, there's one project, but that 22 is actually going to be 19.4 million. So we're basically going from 10 million in county funds today to required 19.4 million in 2028. So this is where we need to not only, we don't want to take a step back with our capital program, but this is where we're trying to phase those dollars in to get to where we need to be. So on average, over the next 10 years, we need about 18 million in county funds, in addition to OSIF, in addition to gas tax, in addition to reserve usage, to be able to support our long-term capital program. We're just starting to see that we're right on the cusp of seeing some of these challenges. 28 is one of those years where we have a large number of urban reconstructs, and it only gets worse from there as we go into the early 2030s with what's coming due. And that's where just cutting capital isn't the way to find our budget savings today. I truly believe that we have to look at the operating to have a sustainable budget moving forward, because the capital pressures really they're not going anywhere. And if we want to maintain a reasonable state of infrastructure, I think the reality is we need to focus on operating today and have these capital discussions in terms of how we're going to manage our capital program. That's possibly a discussion for another day, but in terms of service levels, but this is kind of where we're at. And I wanted to touch on that before we head into the departmental presentation. So I don't know if there's any questions on that or comments before we turn it over to the director.
I'm not seeing any mics, so just keep, now I am. So pass Warden Ginn, please.
So the 2026 carry forward, we're going to use all that this year. The 12 million?
Sorry, in terms of OSIF and gas tax, or which?
I'm just looking at this page and it says carry forward 12 million, and then I'm on page 34.
That includes all funding. So that will be carry forward reserves and also the OSIF and gas tax. So that 12 million will be 9.3 million of that would be OSIF and gas tax just alone. There's a couple million that would be carried forwards, which would be carried forward from 25 into 26. But 9.3 million of that is OSIF and gas tax. Within the OSIF and gas tax, there's about 2.7 million that is still available to be used for 27's projects. So we have 2.7 million in terms of available funding that we could still leverage if we wanted to help with 2026. But that carry forward is combined. It's not just carry forward. It's the majority
total funding. Okay.
Funding. Yeah.
But if we carry forward some into 27 and 28 rather than spend on capital in 26, then we're going to have less of an increase there.
Yes. Yes, through the warden. So absolutely. So project deferral, would, yeah, if we're not leveraging the funds today. So let's say we've got there's 7 projects right now that have OSIF and gas tax funding applied to them pretty much on a 100% basis. So if we were to defer any of those dollars would be available in future years to support the current capital program. Yes. And that's where we see, where can I find a good example of that? So we could see that, so like, as I said, so on page 25, we have 10 million. So our annual allocation for OSIF and gas tax is $8.1 million. So that's what we have annually. We're still benefiting from some carry forwards of from some of that funding. So we're not using it all this year in 26. There's 2.7 that we're kicking into next year along with our annual allocation. So that's why we see in the 2027 proposed capital. That's why we have full 10.5 million. So that's leveraging the current allocation plus the carry forward. But then once we get into 2028, all of a sudden we don't have as much funding because we're just relying on the current allocation. So that's where any kind of deferral of our current funding would assist to phase in some of the pressures on future years. But what I would say, deferral is a little different than canceling a project outright. Like if you want the true savings, we basically just have to not replace that asset or not build or not do that particular work. That's the only true way to have those long-term savings is just not do the work. And that's where you get the savings.
Councillor Besnet, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. Mike, are we seeing an increase year by year with our OSIF and gas tax? And I know that's never guaranteed to get an increase, and we shouldn't expect that. But I'm just curious, what type of increases are we seeing year by year?
Through yourself, Warden, we actually had a $600,000 reduction this year in OSIF. So we went from 6.6 down to 6 million. It's all formula driven based on current value replacements and whatnot. So so that's where it's really important to have the most up-to-date asset management plan available because that is driving the cost. But we did see a reduction because everybody is competing for the same dollars. So however that formula works out and shifts, we actually saw that as a reduction. We're getting very minor increases in our gas tax, maybe 20,000 a year. It's not enough to sustain that. And that's all based on population. So population trends across Canada, they adjust the gas tax for that. So we're up a little bit this year, but we actually, when they renewed the agreement, we actually had a small decrease over our prior allocations as well. So there's no guarantee in terms of those increases. And plus, as we know, our OMPF is being phased out at the county. So we're not seeing significant increases here at the county level. So.
Okay. Any other questions at this time? Councillor Klopp?
Thank you. But as you pointed out at the very beginning here, and you've said for a number of times prior to this meeting, we've got to hit the operating. Questions about deferring a project, you're just kicking something down the road, as you pointed out, or cancel it, and then we're not doing that anymore. So at the end of the day, we still have to get back to what your first comment is. Our capital. I'll refer this more than a few times. You'll get sick of it, but it's no different in farming. The capital side, it's pretty easy. You can go to the bank and say, we're not going to buy the combine, but they really look at what's your operating side. And if you're not making enough money, that's where they get upset. And in fact, if you try that about, oh, we're just going to defer things, they might let you go, but they're basically telling you you're getting out of farming at some point. And so let's just keep it that simple and that complicated. We have an operating problem and we've got to make some tough decisions.
Okay, Michael, continue when you're ready.
For yourself, Warden. So with that, I will pass it over to our directors and they'll run through their budgets. If you do have questions, just please raise your hand and we will we'll note those for the special budget day. So first is Director of Social and Property Services, Barbara Halls. So.
And just a reminder, if whatever page you're on, just make us aware so we can all get to the same place. That just makes it easier. Thank you. So go ahead, Barb, when you're ready.
Thank you, Warden. And I would like to offer my thanks to the Social and Property Services team for their work on the budget and to the Treasury team for their support. The Social Services budget, beginning on page 387, consists of 3 divisions. We have Ontario Works.
Sorry, Barb. We're on the executive summary.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I went through it through the.
But sorry.
Yes, sorry, Mike. I ran through it through the full budget itself, but it references. $387.
Okay. Go ahead, Barbara. For those of you that just have the executive summary in front of you, Mike will be putting those pages up on the screen.
Okay, so the social services budget beginning on page 387 consists of 3 divisions: Ontario Works, Children's Services, and Housing Services. On page 392 overall, the budget has increased by 5.28% or $299,000 over the approved 2025 budget. And on page 407, the overall operating levy increased by 0.02% or $806. So
Barb, could
yes?
I just have you adjust your mic? Still having a hard time hearing. Sorry about that, just for clarity.
Okay, is that any better? Is that any better? I'll try and raise my voice too. That will help too. Through our department's strategic planning process, our priorities for 2026 include enhancing modernization of our processes, continuing recruitment and retention in the childcare sector, and developing a program for cooperative student placements. A 10-year affordable housing and homelessness plan is currently in development as a comprehensive long-term plan to address our critical needs and create evidence-based solutions. The latest report from AMO, titled Municipalities Under Pressure, identifies that rural homelessness in Ontario rose by over 30% last year and is expected to triple by 2035. Salaries and benefits shown on page 392. Sorry if I'm having you bounce around a little bit there, Mike, in the budget pages. So salaries and benefits shown on page 392 are increasing by $270,000 due in part to the proposed cost of living adjustment and grid movements. The housing liaison contract position following the attrition management process will not be renewed. As 3 new housing properties are now fully operational over the previous 2 years, the request for a 1 FTE maintenance technician and a 1 FTE client services lead are requested and contribute in part to the increased salary and benefits costs as 1 net new position. So we've decreased the housing liaison and we're asking for a 1 FTE maintenance tech and a 1 FTE client services lead to reflect the increase in 3 properties over the last 2 years. Within the department's capital budget on page 400, our standard asset management continues for maintaining our building portfolio. We've been awarded federal funding through a municipal repair program for our community housing buildings, and the allocated funding is identified within the 2026 capital budget for the applicable repairs. On page 411, the Children's Services summary identifies a net levy increase of 1.73% or just over $6,000. This is primarily a flow-through program. However, the mandatory cost share with the Ministry of Education remains at $401,000. We use this mainly for salaries within our children's services team. On page 415, the net levy for housing services, which includes our homelessness programs, shows a decrease of 0.41%. A realignment of programs following a review of our homelessness programs was instrumental in identifying decreased costs. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing continues to decrease funding for community housing as debentures reach end dates and end dates come due for our nonprofits and our cooperative. All funding for community housing, nonprofit, and cooperative housing will expire by the end of 2029. Council is being apprised of this situation through a three-report process, with the third and final report scheduled for presentation at the April 2026 Council meeting. You will have received the terms of reference and the second report over the last year. Within Ontario Works, beginning on page 416, we also have another mandatory cost share. This one is a 50-50 cost share established by the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services. And we use our cost share to cover salaries and operational costs of delivering the legislated services. And on page 417, our costs remain consistent with previous years and show a 0.92% increase in the net levy requirement. Ontario Works focuses on life stabilization supports as our caseworkers support individuals on their employment journey. We continue to provide quality service by understanding client needs and delivering efficient services to achieve success. And we prioritize innovation by developing knowledge, experience, and creativity to enhance performance and engagement within our team. That's the high-level summary for the social services. Would you like to pause there, Mike, or continue on to property services?
Any questions?
I'm just going to pause for a moment, Barb. If there's any questions at this point, we may as well do it as we go. Councillor Heffer, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I just caught you wanted one FTE and then another FTE. And what was the second one? What was his role or her role?
And thank you, through you, Warden. So there are two FTE positions. One is a maintenance technician, and the second is a client services lead. We have a client services lead now, and a second is being requested as our portfolio grows. And then we decreased, we did not continue with the housing liaison contract position through the attrition management process. So it's one net new position overall.
Thank you.
Okay. Was there other questions? Continue on then, Barb, please.
So the property services budget begins on page 446. And once again, I was working from the full budget document. For property services, our strategic planning process focuses on efficiencies within the move-out process. We have a significant amount of move-outs each year within our housing buildings. We focus on modernizing our capital program and the recruiting of cooperative student placements. Our preventative maintenance program continues to grow as our housing portfolio has increased by 3 buildings. Page 450 shows a levy increase of 1.25% based on streamlining of services and the ongoing efficiencies within the property services division. And within property services overall, there's a net operating levy increase offset by a net capital levy increase, primarily due to the way minor capital is identified within the budget, as it's shown differently this year. The capital budget on page 453 shows a 3-year proposal for capital projects. So 26, 27, and 28 are reflected in there. We continue to focus on asset management to ensure the county's properties are well maintained, using a preventative maintenance and life cycle approach to ensure efficiencies are in place. And revenue on page 456 shows an increase of 4% based on a fair annual increase. Revenue is received from the respective county departments, along with rent from our one external leaseholder, the Ministry of the Attorney General. Staffing is not anticipated to change as the requested 1 FTE maintenance technician will be within the social services budget, not this property services budget. And That one's a little bit shorter than the social services, but thank you for the opportunity to provide this high-level summary of property services.
Thank you, Barbara. Any questions regarding the property services aspect here? Councillor Klopp, please.
It's more clarification. So when I'm looking at the other budgets, back to 434, and then I get to property services, and I'm reading where the places are. This has nothing to do with one of the social housing. This is, what buildings are these, I guess? Just the big picture. You got to divide it out, but is it 4 buildings, 3?
Yes, certainly. Property services, it is a bit of a blend. So we do cost share some of the positions. For example, our technical services manager, his salary is 50% housing, 50% property services. So they are blended. Typically, expenses such as if a boiler didn't work at one of our housing apartments, we would code it to housing. Property services tends to be the municipal buildings, so the courthouse, the museum, and so forth. So they tend to be the property services buildings that you'll see under the capital program for expenses. So if you're looking at the capital budget for property services, you'll see the county's municipal buildings, not the housing buildings. However, salaries are cost shared because our preventative maintenance tech, as another example, works in both portfolios.
And a follow-up, Councillor Klopp.
Thank you very much. And so I guess after hearing that, my question, when you sit with the treasurer and these requests, they're the things that you're asking us. So we need to do this to keep the minimum of these buildings going. And of course, if something doesn't need a repair, it'll probably be put off. And basically, just for my peace of mind here, this wish list isn't just a wish list. It's the minimum that you feel you need to keep things going.
Thank you, Warden, again through you. Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, these are the supports that we need to run the buildings at a base level to ensure efficiencies, to maintain our assets, and also to provide the legislated services.
Okay, any other questions for Barbara? Seeing none, thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Warden. So thank you, Barb. So now we will turn it over to our Director of Emergency Services, Chief Horseman, please. And are you working from the executive? Yeah. So that'll be page 105 on the executive summary.
Great. Thanks, Mike, and good morning, everyone. Emergency Services, just a quick overview again. The Emergency Services Department consists of providing primary care paramedic services to the County of Huron, our community paramedicine program, and our emergency management program. The primary care paramedic service, or 911 response, is a mandated program by the province. Emergency management is also a mandated program by the province. And the community paramedicine program, although not mandated, is 100% funded by the province currently and is operated in every ambulance service in the province at the current time. The main pressures that you're going to see in my budget are around human resource issues, wages, backfill costs for WSIB, etc. So that's the bulk majority of the increase to this budget. I'm proposing a levy increase of $921,500, $921.5, or 9.6% increase. Again, the bulk majority of that is due to labor costs. Within the budget, you'll see that there is a proposed FTE change of 3.01 positions. Again, this has to do with the increasing requirement for backfill due to mostly WSIB and other protected leaves such as sick time, long-term disability, maternity leaves, etc. So that's all. Almost all of that is in part-time hours for backfill. The salaries and benefits increase is about $1.2 million overall, which again includes the cost of living increase, backfill for WSIB and other leaves, as well as our WSIB Schedule 2 costs. So the costs that we're paying directly to WSIB for for the medical and the treatment of the paramedics. The WSIB, we've had a focus. We've identified that before, that mental health is our largest driver of our WSIB costs. And as such, through HR and myself, we've been putting together a plan as directed by council to try and lower those costs in the future and get our paramedics some better treatment and some preventative treatment up front. So you'll see a large increase to the staff training budget this year, which is about $19,500. It's actually quite a bit more than that, but we were able to receive a grant from the Ministry of the Solicitor General to offset mental health training for our paramedics and our staff. So that offsets it. There's a $25,000 grant that we've already received for that. The community paramedicine program, although 100% funding, just again, a note, we expect a funding model change, allocation change to come in March or April of this year. We don't know what that will look like, but again, at the current time, that program is 100% funded and is not affecting the levy. Well, I already talked about peer support and mental health training. The large capital purchases for this year are the replacement of our two ambulances as normal, which includes the power load power stretch system to keep our WSIB physical musculoskeletal injury costs down. Paramedic defibrillators and auto pulse machines are the other large capital replacements this year that are just at end of life cycle. So you'll see overall, the budget is proposed as a $10.5 million increase, or $10.5 million, increase of just over 900,000 total, and it's a 9.6% increase on the levy. I'm happy to answer any other questions at this time.
Okay, questions from council? Councillor Klopp, please.
I have maybe three, depends, but I can yield and come back.
Let's start with one. Yep.
So you make it easier to put your foot in my head. With regards to and I would like this at the parking lot, and it deals with the Seaforth capital project that's been talked about. Is that part of this 900,000?
Through the ward, no, not at this time. We have not had formal approval to move forward with County Council, so there is no funding directed towards the Seaforth project in the current budget.
Okay, thank you. And just, if I may?
Just let me see if anybody else has any questions, Councillor Klopp. I thought there was some motion over here, but no, go ahead.
I may spur some more. With regards to that report, it is part of what I read into it as weaves as part of the argument to spend as much money as been talked about in it, was referring to Bayfield and Zurich, and it said words to effect in there. If nothing is done by council on those two, that was a bit of the argument. I just want to remember to remind councillors that we do have those that the province, or that yours, whoever, wasn't us as local council by any means, are saying that Bayfield should be a full-time 24 service, and we've officially started that process. I would like that noted, and then also even in Zurich, there is, where it's sitting, there may be some issues. So I'd like that put on the parking lot, that we discuss and give some direction to whoever the future council is with regards to the Seaforth, because right now it's what, $8-9 million or $7 million, and I think we do need at least to talk about it. So I'd like that put there, and then a follow up. One more. Well, look, is there any more questions?
Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Jeff, I'm just kind of looking for an opinion with the paramedicine program. There's no doubt it's saving the province a lot of money when it comes to the hospital's emergency room service, but it's probably saving the county money also because of the fact that we don't have as much offloading waiting, because there's not more people showing up in the hospitals. So it's probably helping reducing both our staff and our vehicle complement because the only people that we're actually putting in a wagon are the ones that actually need to be if we can take care of them in their home. Is that a fair statement to say?
Through the warden. Yes, I would say anecdotally it is. There's been no study on exactly how many calls for service it saves our current 911 paramedics. We're estimating, if you'll see my monthly consent agenda, you'll see that there's a total per month of what we call same-day visits by community paramedicines that are considered to avoid a 911 call. So there's usually about 15 to 20, give or take, a month where we receive a call from either a current client through our CP program or an individual looking for some assistance that might not be a 911 critical assistance. And we would send a medic out, a community paramedic out. And those are considered the hospital avoidance calls. So every one of those particular calls has the ability to offset everything that you've suggested, an offload delay in the hospital for us, a hospital, 4, 6, 8 hours in ED for that particular individual, and the potential to avoid a admission to the hospital, which, as you suggested, is literally about $1,000 to $1,500 cheaper for us to treat that individual than the hospital bed for a day. So yes.
Okay. Any others? Councillor Klopp.
A comment, follow up on that. The ministers were questioned about that program by a number of people over the 2 sessions. And for what it's worth, the ministers said we realize that's an important program. The second part was, will you, of course, keep up with inflation? They did not say that, but I think that's a comment that I'm not expecting the government to increase. They're going to be cutting programs, but it sounded pretty confident that they're going to keep the program for what it's worth. And I think we should keep that comment that was made here. Maybe it isn't just, oh, they don't increase it, we cut it, to that point. My last question, and it's been one around for a while, is the replacing of vehicles. Do we from time to time just take the chassis, replace it, and take the actual box and put it on a new truck? Or do we do that as part of the programs you have versus replacing the whole vehicle and chassis?
So through you, Mr. Warden, previous year, about a year ago, we provided a report to council on what the options were, and that was one of the options that council asked us to investigate. At the time, the remount program was not a very popular program. Both the manufacturers, or both the licensed manufacturers that service Ontario right now, are trying to increase that program. It's called a remount program. So you buy a new chassis, you put the older box on it and refurbish the box. I can tell you when the ministry did it many, many years ago when I was young and working the road, it was not very effective. There was a lot of wiring problems, other issues. It's becoming a much better program. Right now, it's not, I would suggest that it's not quite a cost savings yet. And we do lose a vehicle for about 12 to 15 months for them to do the work. So we need to have sufficient spare vehicles available for us because we have to send the vehicle back to the manufacturer, and we lose it for about 12 to 15 months currently.
Follow up?
I appreciate that, but as you said, there is a more of it. It's working towards it, but I think it's something that we should give some thought on and some direction. But again, we'll talk further on the 11th. Thank you.
Right. Any further questions for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Through yourself, Warden. So thank you, Chief Horseman. So now we'll turn it over to Public Works and Imran Khalid. So if you could please take us away. And that's on page 100.
Good. Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. And appreciate the opportunity to present the 2026 Public Works budget. Sorry. Just before getting into the individual budget areas, just start with a brief overview of the overall budget. Total expenditures for 2026 are expected to, capital expenditures for 2026 are expected to be approximately $15.9 million. The budget increase overall is approximately $869,000 over the 2025 budget, which is a roughly 4.6% increase. The 26 budget is largely public works capital budget is largely about completing existing projects that have multi-year commitments and also advancing some high priority safety projects. A major milestone for this year would be the completion of the Dashwood Urban Reconstruction Project, which is now entering its third and final phase. This was a coordinated rebuild with the municipalities of Bluewater and South Huron, and represents a significant investment in underground infrastructure and urban roads. Bringing this project to completion in 2026 is a high priority for staff. We're also nearing completion of the countywide storm sewer inspection program that began last year. Fieldwork is about 90% complete, and we're expecting a final report in the spring. Once we have this report, I think I've mentioned it before, we plan to just take a look at our asset management plan and reprioritize projects. The major new capital project for 2026 is the proposed roundabout construction at County Road 83 and Airport Line. This will be the first roundabout on the county road network and require careful staging and coordination and public communication. The objective is to significantly improve safety while maintaining traffic continuity during construction. In terms of rural road improvements, we will be continuing with paving on County Road 17, including replacement of aging culverts to address drainage and extend the service life of the corridor. To remain within the budget targets set by council, the planned repaving of County Road 12 has been deferred to 27, which was a joint project we were going to do with County Road 17. But yeah, as I mentioned, we've decided to defer it until 2027 now. On the bridge side of things, several projects are planned for 2026, the major one being Boundary Bridge 14, which will be rehabilitated in partnership with Bluewater and Central Huron, after which it will be transferred to the lower tier municipalities as part of the county's Boundary Bridge program. In addition, the county bridge crew will rehabilitate Hoggs Bridge, which will include deck repairs, waterproofing, concrete rehab, new parapets, guide rail, and paving. As in previous years, we have a number of other bridges and culvert projects which will be advancing through detailed design to prepare for future construction. Obviously, like I said, there's other smaller projects in the budget too. Most of them just design and investigation for future projects. But I'll stop at the capital program here before I get into the operating.
Any questions on the capital part of Public Works? Pass Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I certainly understand the transfer of boundary bridges to the lower tiers. It's been in place for many, many years, but I'm just wondering how closer are we to the end of those number of bridges? And I don't need the answer today, but I wouldn't mind that answer at some point in time.
Thank you for the question.
I can include in the next monthly report.
Any other questions for Imran? Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. Your detail in your book is if I first thought when I read the first page 171 or whatever that our budget for staff was like $51,000, and I went, wow, that's pretty good. And then I realized you do break them down. I just so that's good, but you do at page 176 you get into bridge capital. So that's pretty easy to understand. Then road, you do really, why do you need to keep it so separate? I guess, because it looks like a lot of extra paperwork, like $289,000 for staff on road capital on page 174. And then I just find that curious.
So it's 174 page, you said?
Yeah, like on page 174, it's capital summary. And then you have wages. Sorry, not on that one. Sorry. I'll just start at the front. Capital summary. You have wages 268,000. So I go, wow, okay, but I don't understand it doesn't break down what the capital is. And then the next page it talks again about some staffing, and it's under capital, and it's 51,000. what is the difference from page 174 road capital versus the one I just talked about, 171?
Councillor Klopp, I believe Michael would address that.
Yeah, through yourself, Warden. So the page 174, that kind of represents our actual financial statement. So it's not like the project costing, but so within each job, like there's certain jobs that have different types of cost associated with it. So salaries being one of them. So you heard Director Khalid mention the bridge crew. So like if you're looking at some of the salaries within the capital program within these financial statements, that would represent the work being done by the bridge crew. So we allocate those salaries to their respective programs. But when you actually look at the capital list where you see the jobs, that includes the aggregate of all the work that would be required for that job. So if you see a job for the Boundary, assuming the Boundary Bridge was being done by bridge crew, I don't know if but that's 600,000. That could be 100,000 of labor. It could be 50,000 of consulting, and then the balance would be maintenance contract. So that would be lump sum. So when you look at the project list, you would just see $800,000, but within that, it would have all the different financial statement components to that, which you don't see just on our capital list. But when we present the financial statement, we actually, when we're coding our costs, we actually break it apart as to their actual components. So that's one is just a financial statement view. And one is just here's our project and here are the total costs associated with it. Doesn't matter what the costs are. So they're just two different views of basically the same program is what it is. So one being financial statement, one being just here's your job list with the dollars associated with it. So, but those salaries are strictly, those are bridge crew. So,
and that's what I guess my question should have been, what is the road capital? Because we do have bridge crew written down. I think I know the answer. It's like the Dashwood and whatever. So fair enough. But when at the end of the day, when you add it all up, it adds up to the operating. My one question that for going into the February 11th meeting, just as a breakdown of Enron's the senior management and versus like we have their FTEs. I'm not sure if we have a broken down office versus lower. And my general question is, if I recall last month's meeting or 2 months ago, when we're going through the culverts and we're talking about hiring consultants, it looked, as I read it, hiring consultants to talk about different replacements of culverts and bridges. It seemed rather to me, based at our level at Blue Water, we seem to only hire consultants on major bridges we have, and not on every culvert. So I just, maybe as a discussion, can we maybe look at and explain that, why we need to have so many times we have to hire an engineer every time we look at a culvert? I'd like that clarified.
Yeah, I saw staff writing that down, so that'll come back to us on the 11th. Okay. Councillor Basnet, please.
Through you, Mr. Warden. I don't recall, and this is just for clarification, do we already have the roundabout in our parking lot? And if not, can we add it to our parking lot?
Michael?
it is not, and yes.
And now it is. Okay. Councillor Finch, please.
Thank you. Just comments here. I see on page 100, we're talking about the roundabout as one of the highlights, and also the County Road 17 paving and culvert replacement, 20 kilometers for $3 million. How imperative is that compared to the roundabout?
Imran, try that one.
Sorry, could you repeat that? Just the page numbers and the...
Oh yeah, on the executive summary, it talks about the County Road 17 paving and culvert replacement for $3 million, 20 kilometers of pavement. And then the culvert, or sorry, the roundabout is on there as well as a budget highlight.
Sorry, page 100. 100, yeah, okay. Yep, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. How imperative is it to do the County Road 17 paving?
Oh, okay, I get the question. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, good question. I think I mentioned that the strategic priorities session too. The county has a really good paving program, and the reason our roads are good is because we've kept up with it. I've said that's the justification we use for deferring the County Road 12 project too. pavements, generally speaking, like I can't commit to it, but pavements don't fail in a critical way that would cause a significant safety hazard, barring any issues such as major sinkholes or very major failure. It can happen, but it is rare. So, you know, when it comes to critical infrastructure, your undergrounds and your bridges, those are major investments, and a lot of the times it's tough to defer those. And paving projects, I guess all I'm saying is push comes to shove. Yeah, it could be deferred. Keeping in mind we've already deferred a paving project, and it would be unprecedented for the county to not do any paving rural paving in a year at all. Probably would put us behind, and it's hard to predict the future, but there is a potential that we could fall behind on our paving program, be hard to catch up.
And Michael's going to add to that as well.
Through yourself, Warden, I'm just throwing this out there just as a suggestion, but if the roundabout is on the list, and maybe because I know Imran was just kind of put on the spot there in terms of the paving, but if we could talk about maybe our paving strategy and whatnot as part of that discussion for the special budget day, would that be of interest?
That would be acceptable, yes. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I think this is more a question for yourself and the clerk. I have a number of comments that I want to make, as in one large comment about the budget process, but I certainly do understand that some of it is considered confidential, but it all does need to tie together. Is there an opportunity later today to have that, or does all of those comments about possible changes have to wait for the day we have the special budget day? Or do we want that information so that both council and staff have an opportunity to consider those moving ahead? And are they allowed today or not, or is it only for what was listed as the closed session? I just want to follow the rules.
Well, given the fact that I have no idea what you're going to say,
it is all budget related, but that's the problem. I have some suggestions and things that need to be considered, but do we want to wait till the 11th hour before we start considering all these things? But some of them certainly would fall under confidential.
I think if it relates to overall operational service areas, program areas, if it relates to specific capital projects, let's have those conversations now so that we can put it in the parking lot. If it relates to identifiable individuals, there is a closed session later today where we would be able to have that discussion in a closed session. So again, it's a little bit difficult for me to say, given the fact that I'm not sure what you're going to ask. But as a rule, if it's high level operational, we've been having a really good discussion here today about some of the things that council's interested in, or specific capital projects. That's excellent because that allows us to prepare ourselves for February 11th. However, it's very specific positions or program areas that would allow individuals to be identified, then I think that we need to delay.
Councillor Finch, and I'll let Past Warden McClellan digest that for a moment. Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden. So just to confirm, we're going to put that County Road 17 paving into the parking lot. And then also on page 40 and 42, on 42 we have RD 0406-1. That's looks like a paving project as well for 3.25 million, Morris Road. Is that imperative to be done as well? Could that be maybe put in the parking lot? Does that make sense to you?
Michael, please.
Through yourself, Warden. Those are actually 2028 jobs. So it's just showing the details of what's coming down the pipe in terms of the pressures that we do see, and these would be opportunity at some point to discuss, is this something that we want to do in 28? It's just part of the pressures that are coming up, and it would be part of the paving strategy that we talk about. So,
okay. I just see it says 2026. That's all. So thank you.
Okay. Past Warden McClellan, were you not yet? Councillor Klopp then.
Thank you. And I didn't get to it sooner. Maybe it's I answered my own question there on consulting fees. Page 178 in the 2025 budget, we had 1,047,000 and and change in consulting, we used about 53,000, 2024 169. This year's budget, if I'm reading this right, we're not having anything for consulting or professional fees. I'm not arguing that we should put it in by any means, but I'd sure like to know how we were able to do that, and projecting no consulting fees this year, which is said, I almost don't want to ask the question.
And Michael will answer it for you.
Through yourself, Warden. Yeah, I don't know. That's the Wingham project, the Public Works Yard. So we don't have any capital projects for facilities. I just don't know why we had $1 million and 25 for that project, but possibly how we just broke down that job wasn't correct. But that would have been the rebuild for the Wingham 2 phase 2 up in Wingham. But yeah, there's just very little capital jobs for the actual facilities for Public Works. So that's all that is.
So it may have been $1 million in there, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it clearly is a real savings of $1 million the way it looks.
Through yourself, Warden, I think it was just a misclass in our budget last year in terms of how we did it, because if you look at our actuals under the maintenance contracts, the majority of those costs are under there. So I think just looking at it now, just wondering if we didn't classify that correctly in our budget last year.
Ask Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I had a good suggestion given to me. What if we asked for a comfort break? I could approach the bench and figure out what's appropriate. That is the bench. I could figure out what is appropriate so that no rules are broken.
Fair enough. We will do that and give you that opportunity. And it was getting to that time. I was going to do that anyway. So let's take a 10-minute comfort break, please.
Finish fleets.
Oh,
Can we wrap up?
but before we do that, we are going to finish the fleet portion.
Let's finish Emerald. Nice try. That was from Mike.
I really believe Imran is feeling that target on his chest right now. So, but Imran, go ahead and finish the fleet.
I'd actually prefer to just go through this. I do have some comments about the operating budget. Before going to fleet, is it okay to get into that? Just so turning to the operating budget, the 2026 budget has a mix of targeted reductions, some minor reallocations, and some increases tied mostly to winter operations. I'll just talk about the savings. They're not substantial, but a little bit here and there. So basically, we eliminated $23,000 previously budgeted for operational management software that was added in 2025. That funding was used during the initial setup of the software, and basically that effort can now be absorbed through our existing administration and staffing levels. Structural inspection and assessment consulting costs, which is our OSIM inspections, we reduced them from $50,000 to $35,000 based on competitive tender results for bridge and culvert inspections. So that's also good news. We also reduced the detour planning, sign manufacturing, and installation budget from $21,000 to $16,000. Just reflects a shift in approach where detour planning is increasingly being handled by contractors as part of their capital construction projects. So maybe a little bit of a reduction from our operating budget, but we might see some increase in our capital projects, but they should be relatively minor. Speaking of some increases, so winter operations obviously accounts for most of the added pressure. The budget for winter materials handling and preparation increased slightly to reflect early season harsh winter conditions. Similarly, the winter road conditions response budget was increased to reflect higher internal plowing costs associated with the same conditions. We know we were just discussing that, but consulting fees have been consolidated into a single Public Works Administration consulting account. This provides a little bit of flexibility to respond to unforeseen needs that arise during the year, with a modest increase of $8,000 compared to 2025. Just want to clarify, this is an operating consulting amount that we leave for unanticipated projects that might come up through the year, and we may need to go out to a consultant. A lot of traffic or drainage issues that we're not equipped or we haven't budgeted for. For every capital projects other than that, a consulting fees added to that specific project. So this is sort of an account where we keep a minor amount for anything that might come up through the year. And outside of these adjustments, many core operational programs remain unchanged for 2026. This includes spray patching, asphalt repairs, rural drain maintenance, and small culvert maintenance, traffic calming, and guide rail maintenance are all being maintained at 2025 funding levels. Additionally, public works staffing levels remain unchanged as well. And that's it on the operating budget. If there's any questions, happy to.
Okay, anything regarding that from council? Seeing none. All right, thank you, Imran. We will take that 10-minute break at this time. Imran, I believe you're going to go to Fleet now.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. So I'll just start with the fleet budget, relatively short, but just a reminder. So the county fleet expenses are charged out to Public Works and other county departments. So it is a self-funded expense. Is that correct way to put it, Mike? Self-funded. So for 2026 fleet capital, there are no new additions being proposed. The focus this year is strictly on replacing a small number of major existing pieces of equipment that have reached the end of their service life. The largest replacement is the centerline painter with an estimated cost of about $900,000. This unit is critical for pavement marking across the county road network and supports both safety and regulatory requirements for the county and the lower tier municipalities within Huron County. The second item is a weed loader at the Zurich Patrol Yard, also scheduled for replacement at an estimated cost of $650,000. And finally, a float trailer is proposed for replacement at a cost of approximately $210,000. This piece of equipment supports safe and efficient transport of heavy equipment between yards and project sites. As I mentioned, overall, the fleet capital budget is focused mainly on maintaining reliability, safety, and operational readiness rather than expanding the fleet at this point. There's other smaller items too, but these are the major replacements for this year, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions on fleet? Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Actually, this one's just for Mike from an accounting standpoint. I certainly understand the whole concept of how our fleet system works, but over the course of a 5-year period, the cost of graders doubled. So do we every year do an increase to what the current price is for what we charge out for the fleet, or do we only amortize what the original purchase price was for when we get new ones? Because if we don't update those numbers every year for what we're charging for the equipment, we will have shortfalls. I'm just curious which way we handle it.
Through yourself, Ward. We might actually have to give some more information on that. Those rates are established through Public Works, through the fleet manager. So just based on industry rates. So whether or not they take into account the future rate, I don't believe they do. So we have done some analysis in terms of our sustainability of our fleet budget. And at some point, it's not going to be sustainable because I don't know if we are keeping up with, like, the centerline painter is a perfect example. Like, I don't believe the charge out rates have taken that into account, that large increase, because it was about 200,000 the last time. So I do feel that we're going to see some pressure, but I think we'll have to bring back some information. I'll have to talk to Imran and his team in terms of how we're establishing those rates, and we can bring that information back for special budget day or just a future council meeting. But we will see some future pressure. I know that for a fact. So.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions on fleet? Councillor Klopp, please.
What is the lifespan of the painter unit?
Go ahead, Imran.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. The last one that we had lasted, we have it at 15 years. So we're up to 16 years now with our current one. And we're expecting that if it gets approved and we order it, we still need to use the old one this year. So we're at 17 years now, 2 years beyond what we initially expected to last. And the operational challenges are showing with that in terms of maintenance.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning. Okay, 17, that's pretty good, I think. And of course, we don't do custom work anymore. Can I use that word with them? We don't go out and do other counties, do we?
We don't do other counties. There's 3 municipalities outside of the county that we are still doing work for, but we will be reviewing that this year. I did bring it up at the strategic priorities too. If we do get the centerline painter, and we might be reaching out to them to tell them that's likely going to stop, or the rates will be going up increasingly.
I'm not against the idea. The more that we can recoup money from it, that's a good idea. I don't know unless there's a motion to this council, but I think the previous one, I think I was on when we got it last time. And we weren't against getting out there and getting some money back.
Go ahead, Imran.
Yeah, we'll just have to review how, because we're also, our workload is increasing internally too with the addition of turn lanes and things like that. So it's just something that we feel it is causing a little bit of operational challenges. Like, we'll just have to review it if we get the new painter, if that's something sustainable to continue.
Okay, thank you, Imran. Continue, Mike.
Through yourself, Warden. So thank you as well to Imran. So now we'll turn it over to our Director of Homes for the Aged, Dana, please. And are you working from the executive summary?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm on page 115 and 116 of the executive summary. So just a quick overview of the homes. So we have 2 long-term care homes that are operated by the county. They host 184 long-term care residents, 64 at Huron, which is in Brussels, and 120 in Clinton, which is Huron View. Attached to both of those buildings, there is independent seniors apartments. So there's 20 at each building, 2 2-bedroom units, and then 18 1-bedroom units per site. So the buildings were operational in 1993 is when they started, and so which makes the buildings approximately 33 years old. So the budget impacts that we are seeing for 2026 are related to both operational and capital needs. Operational expenses are $5,892,434 for 2026, which is an increase of $805,063 from the 2025 budget. This is mainly related to salary and benefits, utility increases, maintenance costs and repairs, as well as waste management costs. While we still are sourcing efficiencies, such as we reduce some agency costing through renegotiation of those contracts. We also have looked at our waste management and changed. We're getting a compactor instead of the yard bins, because our increase was mainly because of our turnover in both residents and apartment tenants. We've seen a lot of shift in the residents there. So as well as we are seeing a lot of ministry regulation requirements that have changed. So that's cost a bit of a increase there as well. We're seeing that in our operational budget. For our staffing turnover, we have looked at strategic items such as our retention strategy through our operational review. We've also looked at our onboarding process to increase that to a more fulsome day of onboarding to help support staff be more successful in their career, as well as opportunities with secondary school programs, so that we're doing some more in-house education, supporting PSWs, and looking at also an RPM program as well in our homes. So we are exploring some of that as well to help with our retention strategies. So some of our capital increases this year are related to replacing the infrastructure, like the aging infrastructure in our buildings. So we are going to be seeing some significant pressures over the next 5 to 7 years with replacement costs. Things like HVAC, generator, and then roof replacements as well. In 2026, we are looking at the call bell system at Huron View needs replaced, as well as the boiler system. The parking lot expansions for both Huron View and Huron Lee are hoping to be tendered shortly. So those are related to the increased direct care hours that we've seen through the ministry as well. Some of the future that we will be looking at are roof replacements too. I think I already mentioned that, sorry. So the impact to our budget increase is $296,127 increased from 2025. So our total levy increase for 2026 is $1,101,190, which is a 17.49% increase from the 2025 budget. So we are seeing changes in our funding. They're just not keeping up with the pressures that we're seeing through our increases. So if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Any questions? Not seeing any. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. And we'll keep moving, Michael.
Thank you, Warden. So we will turn it over to Economic Development and Director Loss. And I believe she is working on the full budget. So page 92. 293.
Thank you, through you, Warden, to Council. I'd like to start by thanking the Economic Development team and Lisa Harvey from Finance for supporting the development of this budget. As Mike said, we're working from the full budget. I'm starting on page 293. This budget includes the activities of the Economic Development Board, the Huron Business Centre, the Local Immigration Partnership, Ontario's West Coast tourism, including agritourism, and sector supports such as workforce and investment readiness. On page 296, you will see that there is a slight decrease in our budget over 2025. I did want to highlight the salary and benefits line. You will see an increase on that line. It represents no staffing changes. We are still at 10.54 staff, but I wanted to remind you of what Director Weber shared with us in her presentation, that planning and development along with economic development are sharing an admin position. So the savings are not reflected in the budget. They will be reflected in attrition management. So right now there's a full-time admin person in that budget line, but it will actually be a half-time admin person. So overall, that will affect, it is anticipated to affect our budget in that we will have a drop in our budget, our salaries and benefits line over 2025. I did want to give you some updates. I'm not going to work through the budget line by line and highlight what you've read. I did want to give you some updates, though, as to what the department has been working on since this budget was submitted for review. The department has been diligently working to increase revenues and respond to Council's direction to operate more like a business and generate more income. We have been looking for opportunities for sales, sponsorship, and further funding that is not necessarily reflected in the budget at this time. I do want to highlight that the Huron Business Centre, on page 311, you will see in their sales and third-party recoveries an estimated $46,000 in sales, and that would include sponsorships and third-party recoveries. They have already secured $35,000 of that funding. So although that's not new funding, we can see that they're well on their way to reaching that targeted amount in the budget, and I wanted to highlight that for you. Tourism, since this budget was created, tourism has secured grants of $11,000 in total, some coming from Community Futures Huron and some from RTO4 that was not originally reflected in the budget. And LIP has secured grants of $4,000 from Community Futures Huron and $3,000 from the Sunset Community Foundation, in addition to what you see in the budget. Other ticketed events have been scheduled and a positive response has been shown so far and is continued. We anticipate that to continue. There are further anticipated income streams that are being researched, but they are not yet confirmed. And so at this time, I am not including them in this overview. I know that there's conversation around the SLED program, and I wanted to highlight for you that the third-party revenues that you see on page 302 of the budget for the Economic Development Board budget, there's 10,000 reflected there. That is third-party contributions towards the SLED program. Those are not guaranteed for 2026 due to the fact that our partner has also had a change in their budget. I just wanted to highlight that for you. One other update that I wanted to make for you is just a programming change that we have anticipated or that we will be implementing in 2026. We began the Thrive Summit a few years ago. It's a 2-day back-to-back summit. It takes significant staff resources and has associated financial resources. Listening to the feedback that we've had over the last 2 years, we have heard that 2 days back-to-back is too much. The summit was designed to bring training closer to home for our business community. We do attract members of our business community, but they strongly suggest they can't do 2 days back-to-back, and they would like single days. So we have made a programming change so that there will be a 1-day Thrive Tourism Summit this spring to launch the tourism season, and it will be focused at businesses directly. The second day, and it will be still open to our municipal partners and those who participate in the sector, just to be clear. The second day, we have a new product that we will be launching, and it's called Homegrown Gathering. It's a 1-day seminar. It is focused at rural business women, which is the fastest growing segment of rural business owners. And it is actually an established event which has come under our umbrella. And we are thrilled to say that it is paying for itself through sponsorships, and anticipated sales should turn a profit on that event as well. So I did want to make those highlights for County Council because we're making progress and heading in the right direction. Okay. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm going to go to council if there's questions. Regarding ECDEV, Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to Vicki. Vicki, I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. This one's kind of a tough question. But council's certainly looking at every penny this year, more than we have in the past because of our budget constraints. The Economic Development Board itself, which has both public and private members sitting on it. Have we got to the point that we could do without that board itself? Are they still bringing enough key information month after month that it's adding a lot to our department? And it doesn't show exactly what we pay for those board meetings, but I think it's got to be probably at least $30,000 a year, if not more, when you consider what we pay each. Oh, do you have it up there, Mike? Sorry. 20,000. Okay. So again, 20,000 considering the size of our overall budget, but do we get enough input to justify that $20,000 anymore? I realize that's putting you in a bad spot, but I can't answer the question because I'm not there and you are. Are your staff getting enough good feedback, or is it just good conversation?
You might, through you, Warden, you might want to consult with the county council members who sit on that board. What I can tell you, in addition to what they may offer as observations, is that the board has grown in its ability to provide value. So board meetings have changed. We have reduced the number of board meetings, but we have improved the exchange at those board meetings. We are so fortunate to have community members that represent a number of different sectors. And so we are able to have up to the minute feedback from sectors, from sector representatives to help inform the work of the department. Is that worth $20,000? I believe that's a council decision. But I do find that it is a guaranteed opening into sector information. So it allows us networking that would have to be done by an individual otherwise, because those networks are really part of what economic development is that gathering information, synthesizing information, and making good decisions to then create the environment for businesses to grow. So they do help with that. Is it worth $20,000? I don't have an answer to that.
Past Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and to yourself, Past Warden, on the question. I would say absolutely it is a value for money, because on the board, there are boots in the ground that are closely connected with economic development throughout our county and with knowledge beyond our county that brings value to Huron County's economic development to move forward. We change some things, and it's very important to always be relevant and to adapt and to change. So my personal, as a part of that committee, would be absolutely we have value, both of county council on it and members of the public on it. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just to follow up, council really needs to be doing their due diligence, and I do believe council truly is doing their due diligence right now. The unfortunate part for myself is it's one thing to read our reports, but I don't know how we compare to other counties, to what they do, to what they consider their successes. And I realize that economic development, no matter where you are in the province, probably is unique for your area. But I guess at the end of the day, I'm looking for something, and believe me, I've been a firm believer in economic development from day one, but I really need to analyze what's going on, and I'd like to request some sort of report that, as best as you can we justify the departments that we have in economic development, what we do, what our forecast is for benefit. Because I realize from a financial standpoint, you can't say because you spend $10, you got $10 worth of value. It doesn't work that way. But I need something to kind of forecast what we believe we're going to accomplish and how that even compares to like areas in the province similar to us and how they run their departments. I think that's really critical for us making decisions going forward about, are we spending all of our money in the right areas? Is that a motion, the way I've worded it?
It was looking like a motion, Past Warden McClellan, but our
on.
clerk is still scribing. So if you would like to make that a motion, then I'm not sure she captured quite everything you were saying.
Do you want this presented at the special budget meeting?
I certainly think council needs to have it by then, if not before then, to review.
Okay, you ready? The Council of the County of Huron requests a staff comparison report on service delivery models for economic development departments at comparable counties for presentation at the special budget meeting of February 11th, 2026. I can lob off the end if you don't want that.
No, I think the conversation caught the whole gist of it, and I think Vicky certainly caught what I was trying to request. So I think that's adequate. Thank you.
So that motion is put forward by Past Warden McClellan. Is there a seconder for that motion? And Councillor Vanstone would second that. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I might make a comment on this from my position as chair of the Western Wardens Economic Development. The value that a lot of counties put on economic development is quite high. The staffing levels, I think, are much higher in other counties than what we have in Huron County. And the only other thing, so I think it's very valuable. If we cut back our professionalism and our deep dives into economic development, we're just shorting our revenues in the future. The last comment I'll make is Central Huron is underdoing a feasibility study right now, and we've had some numbers supplied to us, or confidential numbers, so I can't share them. But we have some economic indicators of Central Huron, and I'm sure it's across the county, of 10 times what the average is across the province. Councillor Anderson has read those numbers too, and it's astonishing. It makes me very, very, very proud. Our business starts are incredible, and I think the starter company that we just had presentations today, they're those new businesses, and that's exactly what we want is young people starting new businesses, and that's our growth in the future. So let's not cut the golden goose.
Okay, any other comments regarding this motion? Councillor Klopp?
Yeah. I understand the motion is to have some numbers come back. We will have the debate then about the numbers. This motion wasn't, we're getting rid of the ECDEV department. I didn't see that. I saw they want more numbers, and for that, I'll support that.
Okay, any other questions, comments regarding this motion? Not seeing any more, I am going to call the question. Those in favor of this report? That is carried. All right. Thank you, Michael. We can continue.
All right, thank you, Warden. So I think we're just we've gone through all of our departments, and maybe just touch on kind of where we're at leading into kind of the special budget day, and I will I'll just rehash the parking lot just so we're clear. I'll ask for any additional items, but first I just wanted to go over the list of staff recommended budget adjustments. So as we know, the budget's being presented at the 989, and we've presented various options down to get down to as low as 4%. So the way I set up kind of the adjustments is really just to hit some key thresholds in that 6% range, the 5% range, and the 4% range, which is kind of why I laid it out the way I did. The items that staff had identified as options, just keep in mind these are just options for council's consideration, but we as staff looked at these more that they're really great programs, they're nice to have, they support a lot of people, but they're not mandatory. These are discretionary services that at the county level, and therefore we felt that we should put them on as suggestions for council to consider. So we just see here we've got the court security costs. We've got a contribution for the Y.
Michael, can I interject just for a moment?
Absolutely.
That is page 10 in the executive summary, just for those that are still looking for where we're at, please. Continue, Michael.
Actually, I'll flip to page 10. That's in the commentary. Good. So we have the contribution for the Y. We've got the grant for the food bank distribution center. We've got the water source protection. We've got the SLED program. We've got a consulting job, which is just a deferral. Then we get into staffing, and the way I broke it apart, we're in that $100,000 to $110,000 range per staff person, but I broke it apart like 1131, and that's just to hit kind of those milestones. There's no particular reason why it's 1131 outside of getting to the 6 to the 5 down to the 4. But also on there, just I've added the Huron Lee parking lot expansion, just as one of, it's necessary, but is that something that we're wanting to reinvest some money into? And then obviously the staffing, we've got 15 staff that are listed there. at one point we kind of ran out of ideas to get it down to the 4% as staff. So I do have a capital component on there. I know the direction was operating, but we as staff just kind of ran out of ideas to get down to that 4%. So therefore, I've got 375,000 there to bring in additional funding, which will really just to my point earlier at the outset, it really hurts us in the future. It doesn't help us, but we just didn't have any ideas. So, you know, if council is looking for some additional cuts that are not capital and staffing, or sorry, that are non-capital related, we need direction from council in terms of where you'd like to see those adjustments made. You know, just keep in mind, as I said, it's 100 to 110,000 per staff person. So if we are looking at changing out any of these items, we would look to council as to, okay, so we'd like to remove X, but we would like to add in Y to make that adjustment. So this is where we will require council's assistance to get us down to that final number that we're looking for. And I will leave this chart. I don't know if there's any questions on the chart that you'd like to talk about for a special budget day, but then I will talk about that parking lot list.
Okay, is there anything before Michael gets to the parking lot list? Councillor Heffer, please.
Yes, thank you, Warden. Yes, the second bottom one there, I feel that we should put it where it's should be used and find something else that can take its place. I think I sort of mentioned that at our last meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I have two comments, both on the chart. The first comment is that I had some difficulty understanding the cumulative impact to levy column. And I understand now why I had that difficulty, because I never imagined when I looked at the chart that the list would be set up such that if you're looking down that column for a number where you want to find the budget to fall at, it presupposes that everything above that number is just gone. It doesn't really give us an opportunity as a council to kind of look and pick and choose and sort of collate information to find the number we're looking for. So I find that difficult. I'm not sure that that's a helpful comment or not. I don't know if anybody else found the same thing. Did you want to reply to that before I go on?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Please, Michael.
So what we would normally like to do, like in our special budget day, I will actually have a Excel document that is live. So as we're coming up with those suggestions, then we can rework that and come up with whatever scenario you want. This is just a fixed PDF. It's just that initial snapshot. But we've got the impact of the levy, so you can kind of get an idea, not necessarily looking at the cumulative, but looking at that individual item. So we would know that the water source protection is 0.72%, right? So when you're trying to identify those, that would be the number to consider. But that can be reworked in any way through that live document when we work through a special budget day to whatever number you want to get. And I could have impact to tax rates, everything like that linked to that, so we can see in the moment what the impacts are going to be.
And CAO Work has a comment as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden. I think, you know, one of the things that I've thought a lot about was very early on, Treasurer Blumhagen and I had to have a discussion about, I'm not sure council understands what a 4% would look like in operational cuts. And so from our perspective, this really was illustrative of, so we're getting direction in that we cut the amount that it would be required to cut in operational costs down from where we were, which is around 10% down to 4%. So County Council, just to let you know, these are the kinds of things that we would have to be looking at. It was never our intention to necessarily prioritize one thing over another on the chart, but it was really important. Usually we wouldn't get into this sort of illustrative table until we were at the special budget day. However, when we got direction from County Council that we don't even want to see it unless it's down in the 4 to 6 range, that meant that we had some work to do in order to make sure that Council really understood what they were asking us to illustrate for them. So I don't know if that helps. And certainly Mike and I will do some thinking about in the future if we find ourselves here again, ways that we can try and demonstrate that for council. But really, that's where that's what it was rooted in.
And did you have another question, Councillor Noel?
I did. It's more of a comment, if I could, please, Mr. Warden, and it's simply about the court security costs, because I just want, I guess, to remind folks around this table that that cost doesn't actually go away if we cut it from our budget. It just means that instead of everyone in our county paying for a county service, only 13% of the people in our county pay for a county service. So I just wanted to make sure that that was not lost in the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Past Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. And I'm just going to ask a question for clarification through yourself to Mike. Our UMP funding was reduced, did I hear, by 600,000?
Go ahead, Michael.
Through yourself, OSIF funding was reduced by 600 and the UMP was down. It's going to be fully phased out, but it went down by about 110,000. But that's going to be zero in 4 years.
Okay. And my question was, and this relates to the court security, if I could, with the town of Goderich, was there a decrease in the funding to the town, or how did that change, please? Thank you.
Councillor Basnet, could you address that?
Regarding the OSIF?
Yes.
Yes, we received an increase this year.
To what amount?
Off the top of my head, it was close to 200,000. If I don't have the exact figures, but that's what it was about. And we haven't had a budget deliberation yet with the town of Goderich. That's coming January 27th.
Thank you.
All right. Then I'm prepared to wrap this part up. If there's no more questions, Councillor Klopp.
And I did some technical questions on the ACDEB budget, but I can just take them over to Vicky and she can answer those after, and we'll have it for the day on our budget day. Is fine with me.
CAO work, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, I think just before we end this portion of the meeting, what we are hoping for is for there to be sort of a summary of what Council wants to see on the special budget day. So Mike has been putting together a list of comments and reports. So if there are specific components or questions where we could bring back additional information, we're hoping that Council has an opportunity now to throw those out there so that we can work behind the scenes to get that information in front of Council and we can have the discussion at the Council table. So I don't know if that's helpful, but Mike certainly, I know, will be working on that parking lot list and wants to run it through with all of you now, and perhaps there are more items that we should be adding to it.
Past Warden McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you for that clarification. So the idea is, if we do want to discuss some of the stuff on the parking lot, do it now, and we're not going to leave everything till the last day where we get to a number that we're happy with and we just forget about the rest. Is that the goal?
I believe the goal at this point right now is Mike is going to go through the parking lot so we're aware what's on it, and this is your opportunity to throw more things into the parking lot if you think there's something missing from that. And then, Mike, I'll let you kind of summarize after that.
But just for clarification, Mr. Warden, do we want to discuss some of the stuff that's actually in the parking lot today, or do we want to leave all of those discussions for one day?
That is up to County Council. I was anticipating we would be leaving those discussions until the 11th, unless County Council gives direction different than that.
Thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Warden. One thing that is on this list that I would like to see us continue to do is the donation to the Food Bank Distribution Center, because that is something that is used by a lot of the unfortunate people throughout the county.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Klopp.
I appreciate the arguments, but it was my understanding today we throw things that are in the parking lot and we then discuss it in detail at that special meeting. And because there are things that may be in camera, out of camera, and I'm not showing where my biases are. I'm just pointing that was my understanding of today, and that's how I came into this meeting today. And I just think we just need to do that, and I think we'll be all better served that way, regardless how things go that day or whatever.
So that was my intent. If council's satisfied with that, that will be the process then. So Michael, if you would go through the parking lot, and council, please pay attention. If there's something he doesn't bring up that you think should be in there, let staff know now. And before I go on, I believe Councillor McClellan, and I apologize, you're a little guy on a small screen way far away from me. But please, Councillor McClellan, go ahead.
No worries at all, Mr. Ward. No, just a couple things, if I could, maybe through you to Michael, and just if he could expand on the 50,000 for the YMCA. I have no history of that, and I just wanted to know where that came from, and then I just had a follow-up question as well, if I may, please.
Okay, thank you for the question. Michael, go ahead. Barb, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Warden. So this is a program that we've been running for a number of years. The YRAS stands for the YMCA Recreation Arts Sports Program, and it provides funding to families that are under a low-income threshold for their children to participate in a sporting program, an arts program, or a recreation program. And it's being funded through the levy, 100% through the levy.
Perfect.
Okay, and you had a follow-up, Councillor McClellan?
Yes, Mr. Warden, if I could, through you, and I believe this might go to Michael maybe, and regards the water source protection at the 400,000, I believe we have a reserve, and I just want to know what that reserve amount is.
Michael, is that something you can, if you can't look it up now, that you could get that number back to us? Bear with us a moment, Councillor McClellan. I think Michael's looking that up.
Okay, no worries. Councillor Dietrich and I have been having some conversations around that, and so I think that would maybe help what we were thinking about, or an idea we were thinking about with that, to keep that going at least for one more year.
Through yourself.
Go ahead, Michael.
So current projected balance is about 900,000 for the water source protection. We've been taking 100,000 per year contribution to supplement our budget as well. So the actual water source protection expenditures are 500,000. We have 400 on the list because it's net 400. We've been leveraging 100,000 from this particular reserve to assist. So there is 900,000 available.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And Councillor Finch had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden. Back to the OWYRSAP for the YMCA. Is that a county-wide program, or is it just restricted to the local locations that have a YMCA?
Barbara, are you able to answer that question?
Delivered, I guess, is how's it delivered? Is it across the county, all municipalities, or it's just restricted to those that have a YMCA?
Oh, all municipalities are participating, and it's children that are, it's not just programs within the Y, if that's what you're asking. Yes. The Y does handle the disbursement of the funding, but it could be joining a hockey league, for example, that has nothing to do with the Y.
Councillor Klopp, please.
Regarding back to the councillor's thing on the source water protection reserve, I heard 900,000. I heard 100,000 has been taken out. My question is, how was that money raised in the first place that we got a $900,000 reserve?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, through yourself. So that's just a historical legacy item. So what happens if we, through the years, we've committed to, let's say, $500,000 in expenditures. At the end of the year, we might have 400 that have been completed, but there's 100,000 that is still to be is committed to, but not yet complete. We would have set that 100,000 up in the reserve. Then what we hadn't been doing is actually reconciling those projects that had been set up, because some of them may not have been completed, right? So we actually didn't pay out those outstanding funds. So plus there's been interest accumulating on that balance. So it's just accumulated over the years where we should have been reconciling it every year. We weren't, so it's just accumulated over the years based on those carry forwards of committed but not yet spent funds.
Follow up, Councillor Klopp.
And try not to get that I'm discussing a budget item till next month, but I will make a comment. Don't feel bad. We, our treasurer at our level, because we're practicing what we're coming here is about, and there's little things like that done just the way it was done. I guess the good news is, for especially this year's budget back in Blue Water, we then were able to have some money, and we made it that it was not just put off. And of course, that allowed us to use that money in a lot of different places to help out the bottom line. So thank you for that explanation. I totally get how it happened. But right now, that's better than hearing we have a deficit budget line item. And how much is in that accumulated fund right now, just to be clear?
Through yourself, it's approximately 900.
And as you pointed out, if I heard right, again, not to debate, just information for next time, that we have had to help, we've taken $100,000 out of that to help reduce the taxes levy increases on our previous budgets?
Correct.
So it's not nothing new. We can look at 900,000 maybe, or whatever. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Michael, continue with the parking lot items.
Okay, thank you, Warden. So from day one, there was only one item that we had added, and that was actually the clean water program. But it was just noted that we'd like to have a discussion about the clean water program. I don't know what information council would want to see for that. So I guess if there's we could provide some general information about it, but if there's some more specifics that you'd like to see about clean water, please let us know.
I believe Councillor Dietrich would like to respond to that.
Thank you. I guess my question would be, what is left to be paid out from the projects that have been approved by the committee? Because I think that's important to this reserve money that's here. Thank you.
Okay. Pass Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Other than the request that Councillor Dietrich just asked for, I'm not looking for any other information. I think it just comes down to having a discussion about the merits, and with all the cuts that we're talking about doing, can we still do a grant program when even some of the things we're discussing is letting people go? So we need to be able to reconcile those two types of actions whenever we get to the final budget day.
Okay, any other comments on that? Michael, continue.
Thank you. Okay, so from today, some additional information on the Seaforth EMS base. And again, if there's some discussion around some of the secondary bases being Bayfield and Zurich were mentioned, just to give some future council some direction. Breakdown of the public works staff complement, whether it's management, office staff and frontline. Just some additional information about some of the engineering consulting for all of the bridge work. So some information there. Discussion about the roundabout and also our paving strategy. Charge out rate methodology for our fleet, just to make sure that we are sustainable in the long term. Under ECDAV, just this is my interpretation, but just that motion from Councillor McClellan, but basically just looking at the success of our ECDAV program. And that is about it from, and there's a couple comments about, they'd like to see some different items, whether removed or added in the in the list there. And what I would add is if you are proposing to remove something, what are we going to replace that with if we're still looking to get down to that 4%? So it's easy to say I'd want to keep that in, but I would be looking for council for direction as, okay, we want to keep this one in, but what are we going to supplement it with? Because staff need direction to get down to whatever that number is that council's looking for. So, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you for the summary, Michael. Is there anything that anybody really would like to add to that list when you're here right now? Okay, not seeing any. So with that, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive the budget presentations. And is that Councillor McClellan on screen? Do I see your hand moving there? Thank you for that. And Councillor Finch seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. All right, correspondence. There's 4 items there. Is any of those items something somebody wants to pull out and speak to? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to accept the correspondence. And that's Councillor Basnet, seconded by Past Warden Ginn. Those in favor? That is carried. I'm going to ask if there's a notice of motion. And seeing none, we'll go to closed to the public session. So I'd be looking for a mover and a seconder to leave open session of council and enter closed. That is Councillor Dietrich, seconded by Councillor McClellan. And those in favor of that motion, that is carried. Thank you. We will take 5 minutes and then reconvene. All right, so I would now be looking for motion that we leave our closed session and go back into open session of council. Councillor Finch moves that. Councillor Anderson seconds it. Those in favor, that is carried. And our CEO, Megan Wark, is going to give a rise and report from our closed session.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden. The purpose of going into closed session today was for County Council to discuss the following 2 items regarding personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal and local board employees relating to the draft 2026 budget and our homes for the aged.
And with that, I would be looking for a motion that we direct staff to proceed as the direction given in our closed session. Councillor Vanstone, Past Warden Ginn, those in favor, that is carried. Make yourself aware of the upcoming meetings and your responsibilities to them. And is there someone who would confirm our actions from this morning? That's Councillor Becker and Councillor Harding. Those in favor, that is carried. Perchance, could I have someone willing to adjourn us? Councillor Dietrich, Councillor Heffer, Councillor Klopp, you almost ran out early. Those in favor, that is carried. Thank you very much.